so what I can tell you is I know you remember how you felt then, right?
Yes.
So and as you remember, you were remembering a lot of things, and we're all remember. So the people that have touched on that are awakening and remembering things now.
Yeah.
And some people need different tools to bring them out. Some people, whatever it's psychedelics, whether it's cannabis or whether it's groups in a sweat house, right? I mean,
Right.
there's different psychological and physical things that people need, but our but our minds. I mean, they say our minds hold more data than all the data centers combined.
Yes. Yes, that's
Think
true.
about that. Think about that and
That's
think
pretty wild.
and when you can so when you're trying to explain to people, tell them that almost you felt like a sense of eternity, a sense that
Yes.
it's so big. Our few years on earth are just it, right, we're just a form, right? But while we're here, we need to be antennas because there's a different frequency it's really vibrating right now, Ricky.
Johnny Tesone, you are a geologist out of Colorado, and it's interesting. You have an interesting company called GeoVortex. What does GeoVortex do?
Hey, Ricky. Well, geovortex was really birthed out of my out of body experience in the Wind River Range of Wyoming back in during the pandemic of 2020. So so my book now, it's called Secrets of the Winds, encapsulates the last 5 years and brings in all my experience as a fisherman and outdoorsman and football player up from the University of Wyoming, all my outdoor experience with my friends and family and my Indian friends up there that led to an out of body experience I had that day that I saw just magnificent, outcrops. I saw the synchronicity of the wind and the mountains and the rivers that day. And the geovortex was just something it's kind of personal, right? So it was like, I am the geovortex. I was in the geovortex. I saw the geovortex. And so why don't I brand it? And the reason I made it a company because geologists don't get paid unless they find oil
Right,
or
right.
gold or something or solve problems, right? Whether so we're problem solvers, either finding or solving problems. We're wired like that. And so what was really interesting was the I was born pretty curious. Geologists are pretty curious and creative. So I've kind of had it all, kind of had it all. But that was the download that started was the geovortex download. So I've been in business over going on 6 years now from that day. And so when I built the website, and as I went along, I was accumulating so much data, geological data,
Right.
Earth, Google Earth photos, videos, fossils I was collecting. I mean, incredible stuff. And so with that, it really became kind of my own library that I would be able to start sharing with people. So I got 30 videos on YouTube now. I put them on my back page called my showcase on my website, geovortex.net. So I've kind of put everything in there, and I don't have a ton of traffic, but I got Instagram, Facebook, but it's not about kind of being an influencer. It's kind of about being the ultimate expert with so much data that anybody can go on there and see that I got more than uh, any human has ever put together. And I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but it's just how I was wired,
Yeah, it is.
Ricky.
It's so I'm actually on the website now, and it is a beautiful website. And I don't say
Thank
that
you.
about I usually don't say that about websites, but it's very functional. And as soon as you as soon as you click on, because I Googled it and I went to your website from Google. And
Sure.
when you click onto it, it opens up and it's one of those hallelujah type moments. It is so beautiful, and it starts out with the earth, and it's wild how beautiful it is. So
Dude,
good
I
job
really
on that.
appreciate that.
You're
I greatly
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. So let me ask you, before we get into, like, you were talking about an out of body experience.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that if you don't mind.
Sure. Oh gosh. No.
No, you don't want to talk about that?
No, I do want to
Oh,
absolutely. That's
okay.
my second book is is the space time of many worlds, Rock Creek Farm. So it's exactly what I'm where my life is in all this. So
So
I'm happy to talk about whatever comes up.
so let's talk about that out of body experience. So I've not had an out of body experience myself, but I've experienced something. um I don't even know how to describe it. That's how wild and crazy it is that I've experienced this. But so psychedelic drugs, I took mushrooms a few times, and I have experienced some of the things that you had talked about with your out of body experience,
Mm-hmm.
with experiencing being one with the nature around you,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, like, when you go outside, things are breathing, the trees are
Mm-hmm.
talking to you.
Yes.
You are part of the grass and, the nature and the wind and everything like that. And as you were talking and as you were kind of describing a little bit about your out of body experience, I was like, that reminds me a lot of my psychedelic experiences. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, it was kind of late afternoon, and I had just been fishing on the river, and I was exhausted. I was catching beautiful fish where I go. And I just came off the river, and I was sitting just on the bank. And I think sometimes when you are a little short of breath, they say sometimes if you're a little hypoxia, you can actually trigger some things. And so I think there was a little trigger element of maybe walking and then a little vertigo or whatever what it was. It lasted for probably about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. And what it was, like I said, what it was is when I was sitting on the ground, and I just, like I said, I just saw that everything just synchronized around me. And like then I actually did feel and like I was just lifted up off the ground, and I had the most peaceful, calm feeling like, I got you. I
Yes.
got you. And I'm like, what? Like it was just like so I broke down and bawled. So
Yeah.
after that, I broke down and bawled because when your soul is touched like that, the tears are joyful of your soul coming out and being free. That's how I
Yes.
feel. That's how I honestly felt. I wasn't scared at all. I wasn't
Right.
scared at all. So for me, it was the portal, the physical, the geology, and the nature was my portal at that time. So I think I collapsed the wave in the quantum physics world. I became the observer, the presenter, and the creator because I think I walked that same beach 10,000 years ago. See
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think ancestrally, my DNA triggered right at that time on that river at that time. I collapsed thousands of years and was a wave that felt my other presence in another life. And so my experience, and that's why I've been going to the Wind Rivers every year for almost 40 years, because
Right.
there's something about that country that is special to me, right? So there's a kindred adolescent spirit that I know I was from there. So I'm honoring them by going and every year and going up there and just my last trip. So talking about that freedom and that openness with nature, you hit on that. And if you're not out there, you're never going to find it and you're never going to feel it. And you won't
Right.
understand what we're talking about unless you're outside a lot, right?
Right.
Because there is a different aspect, but it's so important to me now because it's like once you're kind of free with that, and then things just happen. Things just come to you. So this year wasn't that great a fishing year for me this year up there, but I went anyhow, like I do. Went by myself. I couldn't get anybody to go up there with me. But the essence of this trip comes back to what I found 5 years ago in that spirit. And here's what happened. So not only did I find a, you know, beautiful owl feather on the way back to camp that evening for dinner from another river, about that long, beautiful, right in the middle of the trail. I get into camp and I'm inside the tent, kind of getting away from the elements. It was hot. I had a juvenile cinnamon bear come into camp and hang around and talk to me, and I got it on Facebook. It was 30 minutes in and out of camp, and sat down right outside my tent while I filmed her, and just and I'm like, what? I'm like, who does this mean? My friend's like, well, it's you, John. It's
Yeah.
their connection with you because, like I said, it's like I've been going up there for so long, maybe my smell or something. It's just part of the whole thing, but it's just a beautiful. I'm just having a glorious time. That's why I'm writing so much now, right? That's why I'm trying to write and I'm trying to talk more to the
Right.
people like you because the connection with me and you is very important right now because there's not enough people that really understand this. So
Right.
I'm trying to really get out with people like you that appreciate some of these nuances with people's lives because boy, I'm having one and I'm
Yeah.
in it
Yeah.
now.
I'm telling you, it, so I have autism. So, and I recently just found out that I have autism. So I've had these issues my whole life with communication. I don't know how to describe to someone how how I feel after having that experience, or how I can look at things completely different than
Yeah.
anybody that I know. And I like to say things like it's the difference between believing and knowing. So if we're talking about like spirituality and God, it's the difference between believing and knowing. I don't have to believe there's a God or, a creator of some
Right.
sort.
Right.
I know that. I've
Right.
seen it.
Right.
And to explain to people who have not had that experience what that feels like or how I feel now with like
It
everyday
changes your
subjects.
life.
It
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 changes your
really
life.
does. It really does. It changes the people that you hang out with,
Yes.
sometimes in a negative way. Sometimes they can't step outside themselves to see the bigger picture.
You got it. Oh,
And
I've
it's
experienced that, brother. Oh,
yes, yes.
yeah.
And
Plenty.
it's like when I don't have the words to experience or to explain these things because when it happened to me, and it's a repetitive thing, I can go back to that time and experience that all over again. It's just I cannot
Right.
do it without the use of psychedelic drugs. And to explain to people like, anti-drug people what that feels like, like religious people, and it I don't have the words to describe it. And as you're talking and you're describing some of these things, it's like, yes, I've been there, I've done that, and I've had that almost exact same experience where not out of body looking, not lifted up and looking down at myself or anything like that, but more of a general bigger awareness of
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
the world around me, and that, like this is just a body, it's not me,
Right.
I am not
Right.
my body. and
Right.
it's totally wild, that you're in Colorado and I'm
Mhm.
in Missouri. We're not
Mhm.
that geolog
Geographically.
geographically, we're not that far apart. However, it's still, hours and hours, miles and miles. And we've had these same kind of experiences. And there's millions of people out there that have had the same experiences that we have and don't know how to put words to it. And I didn't know about the out of body experience before we scheduled this call, but now that like I know about it, it's like, wow, it's another one of those things that we have in common. And as you can
Well,
see
I,
back
I think
there,
it's incredibly important to share because everybody can have them because it's all within our ancient DNA.
yes, yes, and yeah,
Okay.
that's a caveat I should probably shoot out there to people. Like, you don't have to have the use of psychedelic drugs. Like,
Mm-mm.
like in your experience, it was one of those things where you were out in nature, you were one with yourself, and there was a certain moment where you were able to break away from your your constraints of your mind, and you were able to open that up.
Right. Right.
And
And relaxed in the body and still, right? When your body's not
yeah,
moving, because you're walking, you're exerting and after I got that, I was like, so I was like, oh. So I think I went right into a theta, right?
yeah,
And a little bit of hypoxia or out of breath, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, this is the time. And so what I can tell you is I know you remember how you felt then, right?
yes,
So and as you remember, you were remembering a lot of things, and we're all remember. So the people that have touched on that are awakening and remembering things now.
yeah,
And some people need different tools to bring them out. Some people, whatever it's psychedelics, whether it's cannabis or whether it's groups in a sweat house, right? I mean,
right,
there's different psychological and physical things that people need, but our but our minds, I mean, they say our minds hold more data than all the data centers combined.
yes, yes, that's
Think
true.
about that. Think about that. And
That's
think
pretty wild.
and when you can, so when you're trying to explain to people, tell them that almost you felt like a sense of eternity, a sense that
Yes,
it's so big. Our few years on Earth are just it, right. We're just a form, right? But while we're here, we need to be antennas because there's a different frequency it's really vibrating right now, Ricky.
yes,
I
frequency.
don't know
That's
if
a
you can feel
very
it in your bones. I think you
yes,
can.
yes. Like, actually, right now I got goosebumps. It's
I'm telling you, it's
we are.
happening.
I believe that like we're all connected and all that good stuff. Like for well, we can like ancient technologies, ancient civilizations, and all that. People wonder how the Egyptians were able to build the pyramids, right? Because that was so long ago. We just don't know. We don't have the records or the historical records.
There's no records of any of the cool stuff anywhere in any of the world. That's for a
Right.
reason. They didn't need blueprints because it wasn't built by man.
Exactly. You're right. And I think that the farther civilization goes, sometimes like we are, there's powers at work that
You mean
want
in the
us to
future?
forget. Well, I'm no, I think there's forces at work that are trying to keep us stupid, for a lack of a better word. I think they're trying to hide, well, whoever they is, I think there's greater forces to human beings than we understand, because information has been hidden for thousands of years. And I think that we're on a trajectory right now for people with the internet, with like people like Joe Rogan talking about his experiences. I think we're at like a Rubicon now where
You hit
people
it.
people are getting the information that this isn't it. This isn't everything. What we see probably isn't even real, and it's crazy to think about things like that. It's a
I
great
know.
and you have like so you have the education that I don't have. I don't have a formal education. I actually dropped out of high school and I did not continue my education formally. But it was like I was describing to my wife yesterday. I don't stop learning. I never stopped learning.
Great,
I'm
brother.
like a
That's
sponge.
key.
Yes,
That's it.
and a lot of people when they leave high school, they think, well, okay, I'm out of school. I get to stop learning now. I get to stop finding information and stuff like that. And what happens to us is we get our brains get atrophied and we stop using them, and then we're more susceptible to all kinds of things that we wouldn't have been otherwise if we'd have just stayed the path and kept learning. And you don't have to be in school to learn.
No, no, absolutely not, because it goes down, it comes down to your prowess, and how you observe things in the real world, and what education got me was, the license to learn everything, and
Yes.
being in the corporate environments to push the envelope, to know that maybe I don't fit in certain places where certain cultures or certain areas or certain ways, but what I try to do is thrive in the innovation and the communication and the leadership with the geology background, to try to get big major oil companies to do things they've never done before, because I said you need to, right? So I had a good experience, but I was also born with a personality to talk to people. But back to your point about um, the stagnation of learning and things like that. It's time. It's time that the whole thing gets blown out. And what I
Yeah.
can tell you, Ricky, is my book's probably going to be in 5 countries a year from now. I got major interest and major contracts signed right now. And
Awesome.
because if you study ancient histories, and you're studying all the recent findings, and you go back in time and you look at past, the Newtons, the Einsteins, and only Da Vinci did a little geology. It was only Da Vinci. He did everything though, but it was
Right.
Da Vinci that did a little geology. And then there hasn't been Wegener about plate tectonics and stuff, but there's been no in-depth geology, geophysics, and that's where all the data is about the cosmos and the extraterrestrials, brother, because that's what I'm telling people. It's all on Earth. So
Yes.
I wrote my
So,
book not for geologists, by the way. Okay. I wrote it because it's what I found and saw as a person and as a geologist, saying, and then I started naming new fossils. So back at the megaliths, I saw after my out of body, the geology download happened and started. So I started seeing the totems, and I started seeing images on the rocks. And I kept going back. 2020, I went back 4 times, and I started tracking all along the Wind Rivers, both east and west side. And I started correlating events and finding where we're having major bombardments. We had major bombardments, and it starts explaining a lot of the geological mysteries that no
yeah.
one's ever been able to understand. And that's
Yeah,
what that's
I actually
what I got.
I mean, I was actually when I was a kid, I was really, really interested in paleontology and
Mm-hmm.
archaeology and botany, but for some crazy
Oh
reason,
yeah.
botany. And actually, I actually just started growing my own cannabis recently, and
Nice.
I didn't even think about like my my mom's botany background when I was a kid and learning about all that. I didn't even think about that when I first started. And it's only occurring to me now that holy crap, when I was a kid, I had all this experience in botany. And now I'm growing my own cannabis from scratch. And it's like a whole new learning process. I could have just remembered back then and all the stuff that I'd learned from encyclopedias and stuff. Do you remember encyclopedias?
Britannica encyclopedias
Yes,
they were the mainstream Google back then.
right.
Was it?
Exactly. So when I was a kid, I was a little troublemaker, and my mom, for a punishment, instead of groundings or instead of like spankings or whatever, she would tell me you got to give me a book report on these books, and they were
Oh,
encyclopedias. And so, now this is how naughty I am. I made it all the way to like T. So so I was interested in paleontology and archaeology and
yes,
ancient ancient findings of nature. And
yes.
I I forgot about all that until just now. And as I'm remembering, I'm like, back then when I was younger, I thought about like the dinosaurs, and I had always known what killed the dinosaurs. It was a giant impact, right? And as I'm an adult, like they keep talking about,
That's not
climate
my theory,
change.
by the way.
Right. Well, so
Nothing was
Randall,
wasted on Earth. There's
do you
been no
know?
life wasted. Everything's gone in to feeding the Earth and what I
Right,
found. So the
right.
dinosaurs were part of another species that provided lots of bioprotein at that time. Meteors have been happening, disasters, these bombs have been happening through a cycle that I've found on Google Earth of the original rocket and then the reconstitution of the Earth to make the reinvasion bombs that are kept coming now. And the UFOs and things are plasmas that are in and out of our spectrum. So things are geologically based. It's not archaeology and it's not politics and it's not government. It's geology and physics.
Yeah, that's
That's
where
what
I was
I'm
going
talking
with that.
about.
That's where I was going with that is,
Yes.
like, so back then when I was interested in paleontology and all fossils, man, fossils taught me a lot. And archaeologists taught me a lot, about history and nature and everything. What originally, when you were younger and you decided to go into the field of geology, what was it that you were thinking like I gotta get my geology major, or what made you get into that?
That's a great question. I mean, my dad always took me fishing, arrowhead hunting, stone grinding, shooting targets, bow and arrow. I grew up in a family with brothers. We were all outdoors. I mean, we grew up without the computers and everything. So we grew
Right.
up fishing and playing in sports, right? And being outside and riding the bikes with the neighbor kids and bike ramps, right? But as I went along, my family were mostly educators and coaches and teachers. I was just wired differently, and so at the time, one thing happened in ninth grade. Though I found out I had a talent for geometry, and I started proving my my teacher one to two proofs ahead of her. Joan Hodgkinson was her name. And I said, okay. So as I started looking at my things, I was getting recruited to play football in a lot of places, but I wasn't set on geology yet. It was biology, environmental science. It was somewhat geology, but it was all these different things dealing with the outdoors. But it was my cousin talking with my dad. I remember one evening over at a friend's house. He just said, uh, it was crunch time for me, BYU or Texas or CSU or CU and I didn't. I was like, I'm just leaning towards Wyoming, and he just said, let me tell you about Wyoming, John. He says the best
Like,
geologist that I work
what
with.
is in you, what is in Wyoming other than rocks?
dude, it's got that's it. That it's it. It's the beautiful thing about Wyoming is you can be on an oil rig drilling 20,000 feet deep and hit oil and drive 10 miles down the road and see that same outcrop in a cliff.
Yes.
Okay. So Wyoming attracted the best professors in the country early on because of exactly the extremities of geology and the vastness and the pristine and the incredible contrast with the mountains. But the surface geology in Wyoming, it's unobstructed, right? There's not a lot of cities. And I take everything off on Google Earth, all the lines in all the cities. And so I just look at form and function and geometry. Okay, so
Yes.
my geology and it all came down, but he convinced me because I was looking for a job at that time. Oil and gas business was starting to boom in Colorado, Wyoming, North Dakota. Drilling was vertical drilling then, but anyhow, he just said the best geologists I work with in the energy field, John, are from Wyoming. I'm like, okay. So he had already helped me decide that not only could I go up there and play football, but I'll get a great degree in geology. So what happened was I had too many concussions and injuries, but I was able to keep my geology scholarship, my football scholarship, and get my degree. And I became a new man. I worked in the fields during the summer. My same cousin got me those positions in the field, and then I said, I just knew it was it. Once I decided, and I like had a mentor help me, it was just full steam ahead. So I cut my teeth a lot. I didn't have a master's though. I didn't have a PhD, and it was a really exclusive club for people to get hired as a geologist with Amoco or Tenneco back then, right? Because everybody wanted the big bucks, but you needed a master's and PhD to because everybody else were PhDs and masters, and here I was
Right.
a bachelor's, but I worked my way up on the services side and became the foremost expert in horizontal drilling and real-time geology for some of the biggest companies in the world.
That's funny.
So,
You do believe in kismet, like fate?
yeah, oh yeah.
So I actually, what I used to do in my professional career before I became a stay-at-home dad,
Yeah.
I actually operated a horizontal directional drill for a construction outfit.
Um, right
So
on.
I know a little bit about geology based on like lived experiences. Like when I operated a rock drill. So like that's when we're going through, you go through dirt, you go through, clay, then you hit shale, then rock and all that. I
Mhm.
had to learn all that for my job. And it
Yes.
like, so when a person was talking to me and my brother actually he is a utility locator
Mhm.
and he was talking to me about a job he was doing in Kansas City and he was talking to me about it and then he was like yeah and I had this rock crew out here and they had to leave because or a drill crew out here and they had to leave because it's rock and this that and the other thing and I was like well, if you're in the middle of Kansas City, why would they have that kind of a drill down? Why didn't they just send in a rock drill to begin with? Because like Kansas City's built on limestone, and
Right.
they were
Right.
my brother's like, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, think about it. All over Kansas City, there's these giant caves, right? Those are mining caves of limestone. And I said, I know all this because I had to drill through a lot of it and I've actually drilled through iron ore with my
Wow.
drill. And
Right.
so you want to talk about time. It took probably I'm wanting to say 3 or 4 hours per foot with
Yikes.
a directional rock drill. And but we just kept going and kept eating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my water coming out of the hole was red, it was
Uh-huh.
rust red.
Sure.
And that's how I learned all this kind of stuff is like through lived experiences. But like
That's how it is.
a lot of people
Well,
don't understand
right. Right.
geology and how important geology is until they need a geologist.
Telling you the geologist and but also this is like So early in my training out on the rigs in Utah and North Dakota and stuff, you had to be an expert in the microscope and in
Yeah.
instrumentation and awareness of the drill and timing. And you had to learn that world of the rig crew and catching samples, right? So we're called mud loggers. That's the best, it's the best field for any geologist in the world to learn. It was the proving grounds. But you're out there and you're looking at the subtleties of a limestone or a dolomite or finding pyrite, and you're logging this stuff, and you got to log this stuff accurately. Then you get a gas kick, right? So we're the first line of people that are seeing what's being drilled because we're seeing the rock come up.
Yes.
So that's what we have to do. You have to test the rock. You have to see it.
And
So
that's important for two things. So not
yeah,
only are you drilling the hole, right? But you have to figure out how to keep the hole open. That's
buddy, it's
just
what it's all
that's
about.
just as important as making the hole in the first place. And that's where guys like you come in, is because you understand what we're drilling through. You're taking those mud samples. So in those
Yeah.
mud samples is the material that you're drilling through. And then you can calculate the viscosity of the liquid that you need to keep that hole open. And as I'm trying to explain this, like this is like it's mind blowing the amount of shit that we have in common, man. Because like
Yeah. I think it's
I'm telling
great.
like it is amazing, and like that's why I asked. Do you believe in like kismet, like fate? Like we were supposed to talk together today, Johnny.
Dude, we're totally supposed to talk. And all my experience and everything in the field and corporations, it just comes down to how great can you observe something in the field. So the
Yeah.
microscope, so let me tell you, so that out of body experience triggered a whole new microscopic project, was all at the first before the big Google Earth correlations. Dude, I bought a whole new $1,000 microscope. I went to town. So I went for it again. And I went through and I started finding stuff in the fossil record, started correlating more and more and more. And I took thousands and thousands of pictures with my microscope. And it was the key. Because not only did I see the correlation, but the I call it fractalography, because it
Yes.
just keeps repeat, and it's so minute. It's 500 micron and less that I saw the column of the scale all the way. And that's what I'm saying. If I didn't have the geology background, I would have never been so enamored with the microscopic sessions. But I filmed them, and a lot of that stuff is on Google Earth, because stuff like this I find, look at this
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. I
Wow.
thought I called some gemologists when I found it the spring of 2022, and I tested it. I brought it to a SCM lab and got it tested. All these things have carbon. There's a carbon signature and all this. But what's
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting about this specimen, I call it green ice. This cuts glass, dude, but it's organic.
Wow.
It's organic. So on the
Wow.
geological scale, I thought I had a diamond. I called it green ice because I thought it was a diamond. It's as hard as a diamond,
Right.
but there's no diamond constituents. There's nothing. It's organic. So I
Wow.
put this in water. I put it in water because I wanted to see if I can see a refraction index
Right.
to see if it changes with light and water. To my surprise, that day, this thing started bubbling, all these bubbles in the water. My little cylinder, it started bubbling inside, and these bubbles were just coming out, and this thing was bubbling. I'm like, what? I took it out and I let that water dry, and then I filmed that water droplet dry and then grow back into the big species that I found. So,
Wow.
so I call it the strings of life in my video. It's a long one, but I found great music to this. And this rock provided the first time that I found quantum life mechanized, and how important water activates everything with these specimens that I find. So this is one of thousands of rocks I found. Look at this one. This is a piece of super alloy that I had tested. If you look at it,
Wow.
it disappears. It's so thin.
All right. What
It
the hell?
disappears.
Wow.
It's
That
as
is
light
no,
as a feather. It's a cobalt nickel super alloy that I tested. It's
okay.
as light as a feather, and it's as thin. It's probably one cell thick. But
Wow.
I found this by hitting my 5 pound hammer, which I don't have, against a feature a rock feature that I found in southeast Colorado, the stage of
Wow.
a rocket. You got to understand, I found some stuff that a lot of people may not be willing to hear or want to hear, but it's guys like you that we're connected right now that has to see this and know that. Look at that.
So
How
now when
cool is
I
that?
see that, I think UFOs, man.
Yes. This is it. This is it. This came out of me hitting my hammer, and this came into my hand, and I said, "Well, where'd it come from?" The hammer and the mounted jewels struck this perfectly at the right angle and created this. And I'm here to tell you, I named it Tessonite. I named it after my last name, and I named a lot of not after my last name. This is the only one I named after my last name because it's so cool, and I made it and I got it, and this is mine. But I know there's going to be companies that want to see this for themselves
Right.
for technology. That's what I'm saying. Anybody wants to talk about UFOs or extraterrestrials, I have the data. So
So
my
let's get
AI,
into it a little bit. Let's get
yeah,
into it a little bit. When did you become interested in UFOs and extraterrestrials?
out of body experience day.
Okay. Okay. So,
But I did see Chariots of the Gods was a great movie. I loved it. We saw it at the drive-in. Okay.
wow.
And it started then, but I never tied my obsession of
It never
geology to
became like a
extraterrestrial.
serious, it never became like a serious interest until out of body experience.
Correct.
So I've actually so same similar story with me, except I became like nerdly obsessed with it within the last few years.
Hmm.
But I was never like a science fiction fan. I didn't Star Wars wasn't my thing growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a big fan of like Star Trek. Independence Day though, like Independence Day is one of my favorite movies. Um, but when back in 2017, there was a New York Times article that was talking about UFOs and government programs and stuff like that. I didn't find that article until 2020. And I found a podcast that was talking about UFOs. And during COVID, I got super interested in UFOs, extraterrestrials. And now that I'm super interested in um, just entertainment wise, not for educational value, not for, because I'm some smart person who uh, loves to come up with theories or anything like that, but just out of like a curiosity. I started
Mm-hmm.
getting into the UFO thing, and the deeper that I go, there's several subjects that come back. There's several topics and subjects that are connected, and it all comes back to like extraterrestrials and where we come from and interdimensional. And it's the craziest thing that since since really like 2017, 2018, 2019, the government now is coming out and saying that UFOs are real. And like why more people aren't interested in it just blows my mind. But when the government starts coming out and talking about UFOs and where these things come from, like I was just listening to a guy yesterday say like he thinks our oceans are full of extraterrestrials.
Sure,
And
they brought the oceans. I know they brought
yeah,
the oceans because I've mapped the greatest flood of ever in how it came here, the original arc. I agree with all that. It is the water is the agent. It's the agent for the earth. It's where all life lives and born from, and it's where all life is activated from is water.
so you think like do you think so obviously like you're a believer in like panspermia?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think like water was brought here, like extraterrestrials brought water here, or
Yeah.
that's interesting. I've never thought about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're saying now that like there's underwater, bases for
Dude, it's the amount of data on Google Earth and what I found in the fossil record. See, you got to understand the Wind River Range is just this side of Yellowstone. Okay.
right.
So as I started finding, and as I was already close to the pipe, I already knew. And as I started studying and peeling back the earth onion and seeing things, it became glaringly obvious that Yellowstone is massive event in Earth's history. It's
Yeah.
not it wasn't a 700,000 burp, an explosion that created dust. So one of my other books is going to be the real Yellowstone story, the explosive nature. So as I came back to the Wind River Range of going around the earth, Yellowstone became my smoking gun, literally, that tied everything together. And it happened to be when I was watching Oppenheimer about super compaction theory. It's the pipe and the bomb. And it's like, that's what it is. I'm using mine for science. They use theirs for bomb. It's the same physics that was brought that I can study in super compaction that explains the magnificence. And I call it exterangia before Pangea. That's my other world that is the inner world that people are talking about now. That's what's in my book. I already found it. There's no way. So there had to be something that created it to make it big, right? So there's a process. I'm obsessed with process. I'm an expert in process. But when you
Right.
start talking geology, it's my game, right? So that's what I'm saying. The geomorphology, so looking at well logs got boring to me, right? And you're only looking at so much data, electronic logs and seismic all over the country. But once I got on Google Earth and I started finding the same things like like this. So this super alloy, 1 by 3 centimeters. I started finding exact proportionates to metals in Greenland that are in my book that are 2 miles, that are exact proportions, that are part of the physics and the nature of the superalloy that makes up the rockets that make up the infinite rockets that our Earth is made of.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So going back to going back to like geology, I something as you were talking, something just randomly popped into my head. As above, so below. Have you heard that?
oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what you're describing right now is as above, so below.
You
And
ready?
it's
You ready for the kicker?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. So as I was winding down my research last year, July, August timeframe, I gotta get my book in. I gotta get it done. I was going through this. I gotta get it. People got to hear this. All right, I was scrambling. Here comes the James Webb Telescope pictures start flooding. Right, September of last year. Am I right? So they started
right.
coming out. So I started downloading all of them that I could. And then they had some ESA, they had some Hubble, but whatever. So I had to rewrite my book last chapter because of all the multiple correlations I found, not only in Wyoming, all around the earth, that tied in exactly to the nebulas geologically. Earth geology to astrogeology, undeniable correlations that are
Right.
perfect images in Earth to the outer. I got fossils that match nebulas, brother. It's
Wow.
so cool. And it's so both, it's not intimidating. It's almost like we are so small, but we are so connected in a big way that people have to understand that our lives are being humans are we're pretty badass and we need to
Right.
know that.
Yes. Yes. And we're
Right?
capable. We're extremely capable of, and like
Yes.
there's all kinds of shit that we know, like we don't even know about ourselves. And telekinesis and
Yes.
telepathy and
Yes.
communication. Like, so here at my house, um, there's a lot of nonverbal communication. I can communicate with the people around me
Mm-hmm.
non-verbally. And I really started noticing when I started talking about or thinking about or um, researching like UFOs and aliens and ET and stuff like that. I really started noticing the connection that my wife and I have. So
Mm-hmm.
one day it became uber apparent to me. I was in my head, I was singing a song and I had the tune, I had the whole thing going in just in my head. It wasn't verbal, like I wasn't even dancing. It was just in my head as I was walking to my seat. I sat down and my wife started singing the song I was thinking.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's
And
beautiful.
in that moment, I was like, we're connected. This is it. Like we were supposed to get married. We were supposed to be together. This is the thing. Like it was just an amazing, like an epiphany. I was like,
Sure it is.
wow, telekinesis, telepathy, all that stuff is real.
It is
And
real.
when you think about it like that, the the what becomes possible
Oh, oh.
becomes so much larger than what you thought before.
It, you bet. I mean, think about it. It probably was the language of the past, and it's matriculated through certain people now and disciplines and people and groups, but it's going to be the communication of the future because
Yeah.
we're going to live in a 5D world where we don't have to rely on the matrix anymore. And so I don't know what your belief is, but the reason I think a lot of people don't want to learn is because they're so stuck in the non-creative material world. They can't get out and they're
And
stuck
the
in it.
9 to 5 bullshit, man. The
Oh,
9 to 5 bullshit. We are so stuck in the world that we've essentially created this for ourselves, right? The internet, um, the information that we have would not exist if we weren't like that, though. That's the thing that I can't. For the life of me, I don't know why people would want to live the way that humans currently do. Like we are so stressed out all the time. We are so anxious, and all that shit would just disappear if we go back to our roots and start understanding what we are, who we are, and where we came from.
I am a total agreement with that. I mean, there is a reason we're talking because it just triggers me more passion that there are people asking the questions like you, Ricky. So for me, it's a way to express some things that no one's ever heard and to help people understand and get educated on our world because all the great geologists were all studying, they were all working for oil
Yeah.
companies. They're
Yeah.
all looking at
Yeah.
logs and seismic charts and land charts and stuff. And I love them. I love them. But that's the matrix of that business, right?
Right,
That business is
right.
its own matrix and its own fiefdom. It's amazingly tight and amazing, but so naturally I had already seen that. I didn't like the corporate world either. I didn't like
Yeah.
that. I'm too entrepreneur and I'm too out there. My ideas are not, creativity is
Yes.
not good for the corporations. It's P&L month to month, right?
Right. I didn't realize this about myself until I was like 30 in my mid 30s, you know. So right now I just turned 40 this year and I do have a very entrepreneurial spirit, but I lacked the experience to kind of exploit that, right? There, people everywhere can be manipulated. It's just that's just the way it is. And we're manipulated every day when we go to the grocery store and what we're buying for food. We're That's manipulation. We were never supposed to eat most of the shit that we do eat.
No
But
kidding.
but when I forgot where I was going with that. I could just completely
Well, you're
left
talking
my
about the
brain.
manipulation of food, and in the 9 to 5, right? The people
Yes,
that get
yes, there we
so.
go. There we go. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Like I didn't
I'm
realize
tracking.
I didn't realize all that stuff until I was in my mid 30s. And now by the time I understand it, it's like I am too mature to manipulate things or do things that favor me but screw somebody else because I
Right.
know how things work. I know how people work. And it's like, well, there's a phenomenon currently, and I don't know, it started back in the 90s, coaching, life coaching.
Hmm.
There are people out there that will charge 1,000, $2,000 per month for you to have a once per week 30-minute phone call with them for them to tell you how shitty your life is and how to fix it, right? But I don't know, probably 70% of these coaches, their lives are terrible themselves. So they're just that's manipulation to me. And
It is.
I had somebody one time say, "Oh, you should be a coach. You know, you people pay you thousands of dollars to just give them advice." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what if my advice is terrible?" You know? Like
Right.
things
Right.
things my life is not the same as my neighbor's life. And yes, we are connected, but we don't enjoy the same things. We don't live the same way. We are individuals, but our differences are what make us the same in that aspect. Yes, we are all different, but that's because like we have different bodies or and once this is all over, like we probably just become like one with the cosmos or something. I have no idea, but I'm very
Pretty
excited.
much.
I'm very excited for what happens next, you know?
Oh, I am utterly excited and open. I think the next 5 years we're gonna learn things like we never
Yes.
have. I've
Yes.
learned things I thought were never existent. So not only personally do I go through self-doubt and go, what did I find? But then I have to run it by friends and family, and they go, I gotta see this for myself.
Right.
Show
Yeah.
me on Google Earth what you're talking about. It's like, okay, sit down. So I've gone through those type of things, but it comes to the point where, like you said, you're observant of other people now. You're cognizant of your neighborhood because you are tuned in. You are conscious. You are aware and conscious of the outdoors and people around you. And that's why your show is so diverse because you're conscious of all of that. You're interested in all that. And I commend you for that because you got to find tentacles of interest with each one of those to bring out a good conversation. Dude, I appreciate that
Yeah,
very
and
much.
it's wild. Like people sometimes people do point that out. Like, you can talk to just about anybody about anything. And I'm like, so I tell people, listen, I know a little bit about a lot. I don't know a lot about anything. And so that's that I kind of can I'm very curious. I am just very curious. And then when I talk to people no matter where they're from, or like I get to be talking to somebody in Scotland right now, and we have things in common that I can uh, okay, so we can use the word exploit here. I can exploit the things that we have in common to make a good podcast or make a good
Yes.
conversation. And it's mostly because I just love talking to people, and I just love experiencing things, and I am very curious about, like, I've never spent any time in Colorado, but I would love to. And because I would love to spend time in Colorado, knowing that you're from Colorado just makes me want to talk about all the things that we have in common, and we can build off of that one little thing that we have in common, which is I would like to visit Colorado. And that starts the conversation, and it goes all kinds of directions of I'm also interested in this. And that's what I tell people. I let my show kind of progress naturally through conversation. And if we talk about 400 different subjects in an hour, it's going to be entertaining because it was a natural evolution from the first sentence to the last one.
Right, right. No, I really like that because you know, some people ask the same questions. Oh, I have over 15 minutes, come back and ask the same question. I'm like, so you almost have to be your own moderator sometimes, the moderator that doesn't have the capability of asking the edgy questions,
Right,
right?
right.
Gotta
And for
have
me,
the
it's
edge.
not even edgy. It's
Right,
not even, it's just, it happens naturally through
right.
conversation. And you'd be surprised the kind of shit people tell me just
Mm.
in conversation. And there, luckily, knock on wood, I've not ran into a situation where a guest on the podcast was like, "Hey, I was extra, wordy there. Can you take that out because I said some shit that I shouldn't have said?" And I'm like, I'm very happy that nothing like that has happened yet, because it's people slip up and say things that they probably shouldn't say. And it's well, take for instance, I was talking to a submarine operator, a few months ago, and he was telling me, I really have to be, before we started recording, he's like, I really have to be careful to not to speak on, like partisan politics or anything like that, or policy. He said, because I'm still active and it could get me in trouble. And there was quite a few moments. He'd never asked me to edit any of these things out. But there was a couple moments in there while I was telling my editor, my wife, I was like, maybe we kind of cut that out a little bit, because it's one of those things that's, I don't want to, I don't even want to ask him, should we cut that out? Or it was one of those things where I just did that because I knew
Mm-hmm.
the context of the conversation was so comfortable that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to release something that could be possibly sensitive. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff, like it doesn't happen very often, but I'm cognizant. I'm aware of these things, that just in general conversation, that the conversation can be so good that, and we have that connection, that they may get a little loose lips and say some stuff that they shouldn't.
Yeah, and the cool position I'm in with all my data and research is like it's my own, and my portal's open to everybody. And my books are going to be in Chinese, or going to be in Spanish, or going to be in Arabic, right? English already, but I think I touched on this earlier. You did. We got the politics, we got the government, you got the theorists that talk about UFOs, they talk about the grays and stuff. That to me, that's all noise. To
Yes,
me, that is
yes,
all noise. Okay, the ancient aliens and talking about that. It's past archaeology anymore. It's geology, and it's
yes.
condensed matter physics. It's sintering technology, plasma physics. it's the edge of physics that no one has seen. So I want to contribute to Wikipedia big. I'm going to, because I found the data that supports all these theories. So my perspective and my point with this, Ricky, is like everybody's interested in it in one way or another, and they all want to talk about it. I do think the circle's too small because what we found and what we're touched on is how humanity is going to survive the earth heating up. Okay. So the earth isn't heating up because of man. The earth's heating up because the earth is heating up because it
Right.
needs to heat up because it's metal and water, and it's reacting and it's changing the dynamics. So there's nothing we can do to stop it. There's
Right.
nothing we can learn to live around it and better, but it's going to come down to can humans mentally and physically endure the next 1,000 to 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's not about next year, next 5 years. It's about the collapse of non-humanity, right? That's non-humanity. You and I see this, and it's gut-wrenching to see how people act
Yeah.
and what in things and what people forget. It's gut-wrenching because how can you forget that, or how can you not remember?
Right, right. And you know what?
Right?
Like that reminds me of like right now there's a huge religious resurgence. I don't know if you feel this, but I see it in the news. And a lot of people are reconnecting with their faith, and like that makes me curious as to the things that are going to happen in the future with humanity, and talking about like Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars. I don't think, like there's a lot of things we need to figure out here first, but
No, we need to make humanity better. Mars it's impractical. It's not
yeah,
going to teach us anything
yeah,
in our lifetimes about going to Mars. It's not
right,
it's not feasible. It's distraction. It's the distraction to take care of ourselves, to make water free, to make land free, to where we can use, ethereal monetary systems and all get along somehow. But
right,
you know, I think religion is finding a new pulse because they have to, because they
right.
they they rely on, try to rely on money, bring them happiness or this and that, when it's like, oh, I guess I need God now. So personally, I've seen some friends and family like, oh, I didn't know you're religious. Oh,
Um,
oh, really?
well,
I
I'm,
never heard you say that. Oh, I didn't know you read the Bible. Really?
yeah, yeah,
So dude, that's amazing. You said that because that is what's going on, because it's like people know in their bones when there's going to be a change. The Hindus, the Christians, the
yeah,
Buddhists, they're all talking. The Hindus, we're at the 4.3 million year cycle. We're at the
yeah,
crest of it, right? The second the Jesus calls it, they call it the rapture. It's the awakening of all humanity, and you call it religion or not, it's the feelings of humans have in their souls. And people, when they feel that it must be God, heck yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you can go with whatever it is, but you have to live right, and you have to
right.
live better, and
Well,
you have to love better.
I tell people all the time, like, I'm not religious. I'm really not, but I'm very spiritual. And there is
Mhm.
a huge difference there. Um,
Huge.
and when people don't really think about it like that, but I don't tie myself to like Christianity, although I am a
Right.
Christian. I don't tie myself to like Judaism or Buddhism or anything like that. I think it's the same story. I think
Mm-hmm.
they're all a telling
Mm-hmm.
of the same story. So I'm like, yes, I'm very spiritual. Am I religious? No, I don't go to church.
Right.
I don't. But my wife has a saying. She's like, you can't act like a devil through the week and go to church on Sundays. So my wife says that, I think about that, and
Truth.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not religious in that sense, that like I don't need the promise of eternity to be a good person. That's That's not me. I feel it.
And also religions keep you from learning because they try to
Yeah.
teach you everything from the pulpit and from the Bible. And
Yes.
oh, this is all we need to learn. There's no geology in the Bible, brother. There's no
Right.
physics.
Right.
There's no archaeology. There's talk about aliens and big people. So
Yes. Yes.
what I'm telling you, Ricky, is I found the little people and the big people. I found all that. I found the bones. I found massive amount of data for anybody, any scientist, any human around the entire world wants to look at. I've had 5 reviews and they're like, we can't believe what we see. We can't believe it. So I would like to offer any viewers, a chance to get a free hoodie. So I even designed my free clothing wear because of all the great colors I found in the
Rocket wear.
ocean. Rocket
Rocket
wear,
wear.
brother.
Yes. You want to know something funny? My youngest son, my youngest son was born in 2019, and we named him Rocket.
Really?
Yes, his name is Rocket.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very
So I'm a huge NASA fan.
Oh, awesome.
My whole life, I have loved space and everything about space. And I didn't know why, but I've
Because
always
you're
loved
probably
it.
from space.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so, I didn't put two and two together. 2019 was the 50th anniversary of the moon landings.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was trying to come up with a name for my boy, I didn't want anything boring or cookie cutter or anything like that. But I told my wife, I was like, I'm trying to think of something metal, and because I'm a heavy metal fan. I love rock and roll music. I'm trying to come up with something metal. And I remembered an old cartoon that I used to watch. It's called Rocket Power on Nickelodeon. And the main character's name, his name was Rocket. And so I was like, Rocket, that's it. Let's name him Rocket. And my wife's like, okay. And so we named him Rocket. And then not too long after that, I got to thinking, I'm like, do you know what happened 50 years ago? And my wife's like, what? And I was like, NASA put man on the moon. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, how did they get there? And she's like, a rocket. And I was like, yes. So 50
Very
years,
cool.
the summer of 2019 was 50 years after the moon landings.
I
And
love
I
it.
didn't even, it was just coincidence. I wasn't even thinking about that. But like when you had up on the screen or up on my screen, I have your website up and there was a tab that said rocket wear. So I clicked on it and it's your clothing line. So let's you wanted to give a little shout out to people to go to your website. It's geovortex.net.
Yep. Yep. www.geovortex.net.
And what all can people find there?
Hey, so what they'll be able to find about me sections, the typical privacy policy and stuff like that. But I kind of got a deep dive section, and I'm working on the general topic section. But the library is really coming together. What I want to tell the viewers is, I'm going to be writing a lot of books and articles and stuff. And these books are very informative. These aren't just a 3 month whim to write these. These are in depth. My first one, Secrets of the Winds. So it's it, this was my design. This cover page shows a
Dude,
rocket coming out of the earth.
that is so cool.
Isn't
I
that
love
cool?
that cover, Johnny.
Thanks, buddy.
Wow. That is
This,
so
to me,
cool.
this is the manifesto because this not only shows how I found it, but it ties all the pieces together. So
Right.
my library is going to be massively important. It's going to be full of data, and I'm going to have a lot of books. So I'm selling this one right now. It's for 99, but I'm selling all the lifetime library membership for 150 for the first 1,000 buyers, and I'll throw in a cool hoodie I'll throw in a cool hoodie, any size, shipped in the US, of course, for now. So I'm trying to incent people both to be curious about finding all the cool stuff that I've personally found around the world, and
Wow.
some AI, but mostly this is like look at this page, for example. Look at these planes and stuff I found around the world that disappear and cloak and change, and then all the different apparatuses of how things look out in the field and how
That's
they
cool.
change the infinite dimensions. So there's not a lot of theory. My stuff is it's in the weeds of the physics and the geology with me just short scripting this. So I'm looking for the people that want to engage, that want to they can challenge it all they want. I don't want people to challenge it before they read anything though. But you know what I'm
Right.
saying? People come on
Yes.
and they just flirt stuff. But this is for all PhDs. It's all for scientists. It's all for humans. And it just shows you what I found and what I've made of it. But I talk about some pretty substantial timelines. I talk about pretty sophisticated science factors, but this is a whole new science. It's a whole new deal. It's all in the earth. Like you said, as within, as above, as within. So to our point is, people, I think we have the universe inside of us. I think there's a
Yeah.
universe of
Yeah.
knowledge and a universe of perplexity, a universe of creativity. The universe is all that of
Yeah.
mystery, right? How boring would it be to know everything about your life or to know everything?
Right.
Because once you know it, like the curiosity to keep learning every day, there's something to learn about
Yes.
ourselves or about nature or about, right? There's not
Right.
much to learn about politics anymore, right? I mean,
Yes. Yes. It's all the same.
but this is where it's at. You're learning me, I'm learning you. So,
Right.
so the podcast is a really important venue for me to practice me talking to hosts, right? So
Right.
this is really an honor to be here. I'm telling you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So one more time, I got to give you a shout out for the artwork on this website, dude. So
Thank you.
I was just checking out, the library here, and all your books are here.
Mm-hmm.
And the artwork is amazing. There's this one extra ex, exterraneum rocket
Yes.
Earth.
Yes.
That is an amazing picture. I love it.
Thank you.
And the artwork is amazing. Earth alien anatomy, anthropology. I that
Anthropology, yeah, I have my own science. I have so much data and so many different bones. None of it's human. So I found the skeletons and put everything together, and I started naming all the body parts because I can. I'm the discoverer, right? I'm
right.
the
Yes.
observer. So I can go to town. That was the great thing about the freedom of being a scientist, is like you're free. I'm so free. I mean, I can travel to the life, the Pillars of Life nebula that Hubble took and see
Right.
that exact image. And my mind can go, is that where I'm from? Right?
Right. Yes.
Cool, cool, big stuff.
Well, Johnny, I think it's a great place to leave this conversation, but I would like to stay in touch, obviously.
Yes,
Actually, before we had started recording on the pod, we actually exchanged phone numbers.
yes.
So save my phone number and
Okay.
don't hesitate to reach out. So I'm while we're recording, I'm just going to let everybody know I am horrible at maintaining communication. Mostly because I have umpteen thousands of people I have to talk to all day, every day. My inbox is like it took a few days for me to get back to you at the very beginning, and it's mostly because I'm like inundated with like messages and stuff like that. But don't hesitate to reach out. If I'm not reaching out to you, reach out to me, and we'll do this again We'll have another
Great.
podcast.
Yeah,
I know you are working on some stuff right now. If you release another book or whatever, hit me up
sure.
and we'll talk about it. And then obviously, with the UFO subject, it's ever changing. There's new information coming out every day. I stay on top of that kind of stuff, like with the hearings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Or
and that,
if you want to
the
just
AI
talk about,
Atlas, the A1 Atlas,
yes,
A13
yes,
Atlas,
we didn't even
it's
talk about
amazing.
that. We didn't
We didn't
even
even
talk
talk
about,
about that.
yeah.
And
Let's,
so I want to bring out some of those pictures next time of what they in my pictures, and I'll show that it doesn't surprise me that this is flown around interstellar before because it's I found my stuff on Mars, Venus, Earth, right? So this is interstellar stuff that I found on Earth. So that is not surprising that it could be the
right,
same species that's cruising around out
right.
there.
And I
Now
think
parked on
I,
Mars? I mean, what?
right. The 3A, what is it? 3IA. I think I had heard when they first started talking about it, one of the things that got them to pay attention to 3I Atlas is that uh, they were watching it and it changed directions.
Right, right.
And wow, what? It changed directions. An interstellar object from outside of our
And
solar
it's
system, outside of
right.
our galaxy, changed directions. And that's what got them to look at it. And it's now one of the fastest objects in the universe right now. And or not in the universe, but our galaxy that we can see. And it's now on the dang news that Avi Loeb from Harvard
Mm-hmm.
thinks that this could be an alien spaceship, you know?
It's not
And
acting like it's not acting like a comet at all. I
right,
mean, it's emitting
right,
CO2 and some nickel or something. I mean, it's really amazing. Nickel, hello, right?
right,
Combustion,
right.
nickel, propulsion.
Like, and that makes me think of a spaceship. When you held that up,
Exactly.
my exact thoughts were Roswell,
Yes.
because things like that have come out of Roswell. There's materials that, oh shoot, I forgot his name. Uh, well, it's irrelevant, but
Lazier.
no, he's a scientist and he looks at things like
Okay.
shoot, I can't remember his name. So this happens during podcasts, like when you're trying to think of information and
Oh, I
it's
know.
just not there, and then you're like, oh man, but you know what? An hour away from now, I'm gonna think of it, and it'll be funny. But
Well,
um,
this has been a great session for me, and
it
I just
has, it
have a
really
lot to
has.
say. I have a lot to say.
Well, I'll tell you what, Johnny, let's keep in touch and
Hey,
let's do
bud.
this again. And it like next time it won't be so informal because now we know each other, or it won't be so
Yeah.
formal because we know each other now. And I'm perpetually broke, but when I'm not, I'll come out there to Colorado and visit maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe you can come out when the Chiefs play the Broncos for the AFC title.
Hell yes. Hell yes. That's another thing that we,
If the Chiefs can rally, but that was a tough loss last night.
oh, you're telling me, man.
Oh,
I wasn't mad. It's hard to be mad. Like they played a great game last night, and so did Jacksonville. So it was a good slugfest. It was
it
awesome to
was.
watch. It was awesome game to watch, and I'm glad that you picked out that I'm a Chiefs fan, because like I'm surrounded by Chief shit, and it's another thing that we had in common was you played football. I love watching football. So
Oh man, well the chefs are the biggest rivalry. I mean, the Chiefs used to be the biggest. We love the chefs. There's a love hate relationship in Colorado. My mom was born in Kansas. She loves, but she likes the Broncos more. But all the games, she's a Chiefs fan, other than when the Broncos.
hell yes, yes. That's just like if we. It used to be when we got knocked out of the contention for the Super Bowl. I would root for whoever. It was AFC West first. So unless it was the Raiders, could not I could not root for the Raiders. But it was the AFC West that I would root for. And then
Uh-huh.
when and if the AFC West got knocked out, then I would go with whichever is the best team in the AFC. And then I would keep that AFC NFC thing alive until Super Bowl. And then if my team wasn't in the Super Bowl, I really didn't care who won, but I would root for the AFC. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's been an
it's good
awesome
stuff, man.
conversation, Johnny. Hang out with me for just a moment. We'll let these
Yeah.
guys go. And hey, everybody, check out Johnny's website. And you know what? Check out his books too, because like if you go on his website, geovortex.net, and there's all kinds of home, about, general topics. But over here on the tab that says library, there's a couple books here that's for sale that Johnny has written. Check out these books. Check out the website. If you don't do anything else, check out the website at least, because the artwork on this website is phenomenal. And I just can't say enough about the artwork. I love the artwork. And he also has a tab on here called Rocket Wear, and that is where you find clothing and stuff like that, accessories. But it's all it's all themed, right? And on on the tab that of Rocketware, there's also a coupon code for your first order. So check out the website geovortex.net. Johnny Tesone. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.